Hello, how are you? I hope you find good. So today we have a new grammar lesson. Okay, but firstly, let me share my screen. Now I think you can share my screen. Okay, so our lesson today is talking about who and whom in questions and subordinate clause. Whom and who in questions and subordinate clause. Okay, so firstly, let's start with who. Who here has two functions. Has two functions. The first one is question is talking asking about the subject in the question and the ordinary sentence. An ordinary sentence. But firstly, let's try to okay, just a minute. Mm, yes, let's try to understand the first line, okay, because it's very important. Okay, so here listen, use the nominative pronoun. Use the nominative pronoun who. Focus around who. For subjects. For subjects of sentences and clauses. So we have to focus around the subject. Okay, for the first example. The first example, for example, says here that's in who answered the door. Who answered the door. So here that's in the question. The question who is asked about the subject. About whom? The subject. Okay, so here is in who answered the door. So he's talking about or asking about who is the subject who answered the door. Okay, so the next example is ordinary sentence. Tell me who will give the speech. Tell me who will give the speech. So here this in the word who now is not okay, is an adjective. Sorry, it's in not adjective, but it's tried to use the subject. Okay, so he tells you now that in who is the subject of the noun clause. Who will give the speech? So I ask about the subject. Who now is asking about the subject. Ask about the person who does the subject or does the action. Okay, so now it's in who asking about the subject. The third example. The person who took the cupcake ran out the back door. The person who. So here, excuse me. Okay, so here that's in the third example. Here is the person who took the cupcake. So here now I ask about the person who took the cupcake. Who asked about the subject. The person here is the subject. Okay, I'm talking here. Okay, that's minute. Yes, okay. So here this in the person is subject. So I used who. I used who to ask about the subject. Okay. So on the other hand, okay, from whom. So here we have to use that's in use the objective pronoun whom for the direct or indirect object. For the next example, to whom are you writing? To whom are you writing? Of course, I have the subject here. So I ask this writing, you write to whom? To whom? So here that's in to the object. I write now to another person. The another person, this is an object. So to whom you are writing? I can't say to who you are writing or are you writing. To who? Of course you are writing now. To who? I know the subject. I know the subject. Of course, I know that in you here is the subject. Okay, last minute. Um, now that's in you. Here is the subject. Of course, and whom now I ask about whom. Of course, the object. So whom is asking about the object. Okay, so here that's in whom is the object of the preposition to. Okay, that's in have another idea. That's in you have tried to think that's in whom. I ask about which person. I ask about the subject or the object. Which one I ask about? Of course, I ask about the object. So I have to use whom. The next example, Mr. Kim wondered whom we had seen at the library. So here that's Mr. Kim wondered. Who? Who we? Of course, I know the subject. I know the subject is who is Mr. Kim. I ask about the subject? Of course not. I ask about the object because I have already the subject. I have already the subject here. Okay, so here Mr. Kim. I can't ask about the subject because I have already the subject. I can't ask him. So I ask about the object. So Mr. Kim wondered whom we had, whom we ask about the object. Okay. So here, Mr. Kim is the subject. So I have to ask for the object because I have already know who is the subject, Mr. Kim. The first example here, that's in to whom are you writing? I have already know who is the subject. You is the subject. Okay. So the third example, or just a minute. Okay, the next example here, that's in Joaquin wondered to whom the letter was addressed. So here I know the subject Joaquin, so whom is the object, whom ask about the object, okay, to whom the letter was addressed. So now let's try to answer few questions. Okay, so now complete each sentence by adding who or whom, whichever is correct. Do you know anyone? Do you know anyone who has traveled around the world? Why I have or why I choose the who, or why the author choose the who? Do you know anyone has traveled? Has traveled. So it's important. You have to know that in has traveled, of course, you have to ask about the subject. Who traveled around the world? You ask about the subject. Who is traveled? Who has traveled around the world? So the next one here, or the first one, hasn't dreamed of traveling around the world. Who or whom? I ask about what? The subject or the object? Who is the person has not dreamed of traveling around the world? Of course, who? Of course, who? So here the sin who hasn't dreamed of traveling around the world? Number two, is there anyone to who or whom the life? To what? Now I ask about what the subject or the object. Of course, I have the subject here, anyone. Okay. So now, is there anyone to the life of a traveler? To what? To who or whom? To who the life? Okay. Is there anyone to who the life of a traveler doesn't sound appealing? Okay. Is there anyone to, like here, the first example, do you know anyone who has traveled? Okay. So next, the same case here, that's in is there anyone to who the life of traveler? Third one, a woman about who few people or whom few people. Number three is whom few people. Whom few people. Okay. Whom few people. Ada preferred or إذا بفيفر. So here that's in who or whom. Many consider. Who or whom. Many consider. Of course, who, because I ask about, I talking about the subject. Okay, it's not a question. That's not a question. Okay, so it's an ordinary sentence. So who with a small letter, with small letter. Okay, who many considered. Okay, number 5, did travel. Who did travel? Were usually wives of diplomats or missionaries. Okay, I think that's an we need to discuss more about this lesson. Okay, tomorrow, inshallah, and I think this became more clear for you. Thank you so much. Okay, and tomorrow, inshallah, we will explain more and more. Thank you so much. Bye bye.